The rain lashed the windows like 1,000 tiny whips, but it was Elena's words that cut deeper. Mark stood in the kitchen, drenched from a 14-hour shift at the factory, his hands raw from machinery, expecting the warmth of a meal and his wife's embrace. Instead, Elena leaned against the counter, her eyes cold as steel. "You're an adult. Cook for yourself," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "I'm not running a restaurant." The words landed like a betrayal, shredding a decade of sacrifices, his overtime to fund her boutique, his dreams deferred for her ambitions. Humiliation surged, hot and suffocating, as if she'd stripped him bare in front of the world. In that moment, Mark vowed she'd pay for reducing him to nothing, her scorn igniting a fire of revenge that would burn everything down. Mark's life became a furnace of rage after that night, the humiliation of Elena's dismissal fueling his every breath. He moved out within days, renting a grim studio apartment that reeked of mildew, a far cry from the home he'd built for her. Her words, "You're an adult," looped in his mind, a taunt that stoked a dark obsession. Revenge wasn't just a desire, it was a necessity, a way to reclaim the dignity she'd stolen. It started with small, venomous acts. He hacked her social media, posting subtle lies about her boutique's quality, watching her customer base dwindle. Each lost sale was a jab to her pride, a mirror of his own. The burden of revenge was a relentless weight. At the factory, Mark threw himself into work, earning a supervisor role through sheer aggression, but his focus wavered. He'd stare at machine parts, imagining Elena's face, his hands itching to destroy. Sleep was a casualty. Nights were spent plotting, his body thinning as he skipped meals to fund his schemes. He hired a lawyer to freeze their joint accounts, claiming she'd mismanaged funds, a half-truth that hit her where it hurt. The divorce filing was his first major strike, demanding her boutique as compensation for emotional distress. Her panicked calls went unanswered. He wanted her to feel the isolation he'd endured. This pursuit reshaped his world. Friends noticed the change, his once warm demeanor replaced by a cold edge. His brother Tom tried to intervene at a bar. "You're letting her win by becoming this." Mark slammed his glass down, snarling, "She made me nothing. I'll make her less." Tom backed off, their bond fraying. At work, colleagues avoided him, wary of his temper. He fired a worker for a minor error, seeing Elena's indifference in the man's excuses. His family suffered too. His sister Maria stopped inviting him to dinners, her kids scared of his anger. Revenge wasn't just personal, it rippled, alienating everyone. Emotionally intense moments defined his descent. One night, alone in his apartment, Mark found an old anniversary card from Elena, her handwriting promising forever. Justice screamed for confrontation, to make her admit her cruelty, but destruction urged darker paths. He considered leaking her private emails, exposing her flaws to her social circle. The temptation was intoxicating, but it scared him. How far would he go? He settled for a calculated move, tipping off her suppliers with forged complaints, causing them to drop her. When she cried to him, unaware of his role, he offered fake sympathy, his heart racing with grim satisfaction. The burden grew heavier. His health faltered, migraines from stress, hands trembling from sleeplessness. Yet revenge drove every decision. He tracked her movements through a mutual friend, learning her boutique was failing. Satisfaction mingled with emptiness, but he pushed forward, hiring a private investigator to dig up dirt. The investigator found evidence of her skimming profits, a betrayal that justified his crusade. He stood at a crossroads. Justice could mean exposing her legally, but destruction whispered of total ruin, planting evidence to frame her for fraud. He chose the darker path, slipping documents into her store's records, setting her up for a fall. The chapter closed with a pivotal moment. At a court hearing, Elena appeared, desperate, pleading her case. She admitted to feeling trapped in their marriage, her words a defense, not an apology. Mark's resolve hardened. Her truth only fueled his fire. Was revenge justice, or was he becoming the villain? The question lingered, but he silenced it, pushing for harsher terms in the divorce. His heart was a battlefield, torn between balancing the scales and obliterating her entirely, but destruction won. He left the courthouse, eyes burning with purpose, ready to escalate. 2 years later, Mark's revenge had carved him into a weapon, sharp and unyielding. His life was a monument to retribution, every choice a step toward Elena's ruin. Her boutique had collapsed under his sabotage, fake reviews, forged complaints to regulators, even a whispered tip to the IRS about unreported income. She'd lost everything. Her business, their home, now scraping by in a rundown apartment. Mark monitored her downfall through a private investigator's reports, each one a trophy, photos of her at a pawn shop, selling jewelry he'd bought her. Victory was sweet, but the burden of revenge was a cancer, eating his health and sanity. His obsession dictated everything. He'd risen to regional manager, using his wealth to fund his campaign, but it came at a cost. Sleepless nights left him gaunt, his doctor warning of heart strain from stress. Relationships crumbled. Tom cut contact after Mark's latest outburst, calling him toxic. Maria's pleas to stop were met with silence. Her tearful voicemail, "You're not my brother anymore," went unanswered. At work, his ruthlessness sparked fear. A co-worker's lawsuit accused him of bullying, echoing Elena's coldness. The irony stung, but he buried it, consumed by his mission. Intense moments of turmoil marked his path. One night, rain-soaked, Mark stood outside Elena's apartment, a Molotov cocktail of emotions in his hand. Justice demanded a face-to-face reckoning, but destruction tempted literal fire, burning her last refuge. His fingers grazed a lighter in his pocket, heart pounding, before he walked away, shaken by how close he'd come. The line blurred. He was no longer just seeking balance, but craving annihilation. Another time, he found her diary, stolen by his investigator, revealing her despair. For a fleeting second, he saw her humanity, but rage drowned it. She'd humiliated him first. The pursuit's toll spread. Elena's friends shunned her after Mark leaked doctored texts suggesting she'd betrayed them. Her sister confronted him. "You're a monster." He laughed. "She made me one." The isolation was complete. No friends, no family, just the fire of revenge. His body suffered. Weight loss, chest pains, but he ignored it, driven by the endgame. He uncovered Elena's attempt to rebuild, a new job at a cafe. He sabotaged it, bribing a co-worker to frame her for theft. She was fired again, her spirit breaking further. The climax loomed at a community event where Elena, desperate, tried to network for a fresh start. Mark crashed it, armed with a dossier of her crimes, forged financial records, affair rumors, all projected on a screen for all to see. Gasps filled the room as Elena stood frozen, her reputation shattered. "You're an adult now," he said, voice venom. "Survive." She fled, sobbing, as the crowd whispered. It was his pinnacle, her total ruin achieved. The resolution was cold justice. Mark finalized the divorce, stripping her of any remaining assets. He stood in his new penthouse, alone, toasting to the mirror. You got what you deserved. No kindness softened him. No truth changed his course. Revenge had cost him everything. Health, family, soul, but it was worth it. Elena was nothing, and he was untouchable, a king in a kingdom of ashes. The story ended with him staring out at the city, the fire of vengeance now a steady ember, his life defined by the destruction he'd wrought. Moral of the story: revenge may carve a path to victory, but it leaves the victor stranded in a wasteland of their own making.